Hi everyone, this is our channel, Around My Story. Please like, share and subscribe.
Everyone likes mysterious phenomena. People are attracted to inexplicable things that mystify the mind, pique our curiosity, and provoke our imagination. People hate secrets and yearn to know how things work and why. When watching TV with your friends, figuring out murder mysteries in horror movies is relatively easy. But in real life, sometimes this is not so easy. Instead of anticipation of learning the truth about a mystery, you may be terrified instead. No, I'm not pitching for a new movie debut. I am introducing my story, which deals with a life experience involving this very topic. My name is Henrique, and I am 23 years old. I live with my father in a neighborhood that is quieter than most. Its residents go to sleep soon after sunset. Are you intrigued by this neighborhood? A legend circulates around this neighborhood that, well, first let me tell you how we came to live in this nice, quiet neighborhood. We used to live across town, but our old house burned down. Mom died in the fire, but Dad and I miraculously survived somehow. Dad decided to move away from that location due to bad memories. He wanted us to live in a quiet neighborhood far from there, so he searched for a nice home in a quiet neighborhood and found our current home here in this neighborhood. It was surprisingly affordably priced, and we wondered why, but Dad wasn't in the mood to look a gift horse in the mouth, so he bought it. As we were moving into our new home, a neighbor came over and welcomed us to the neighborhood. She said, "Welcome to the neighborhood. Isn't this area so quiet and beautiful? Too bad it owes these nice qualities to a massacre." She looked dismayed. "Massacre?" Dad said. "Oh, didn't you know?" she said. "Yes, the Draco family used to live here. One night, Mr. Draco went mad, killed his whole family, and then committed suicide. A little morbid, isn't it? I figured the realtor would have told you about that. That's why the real estate prices here are so cheap. Very few people would move into a house with such a macabre history. Oh, one more thing. I wouldn't go out after sunset if I were you." "Why not?" Dad asked. The neighbor hesitated, pondering if she should say any more. Finally, she said, "Well, everyone here has adopted the habit of going to sleep early. I used to drink my favorite tea on the porch at sunset, but one night I heard a loud, moaning voice come from out of nowhere. It scared the bejesus out of me, and I stopped being out after sunset after that." This story gave me shivers. So I went to my bedroom and locked all the windows. I imagined, I hope it was my imagination, that I heard voices outside all night. The next day, Dad went to work. When he came home at the end of the day, I told him that I'd heard voices all night, and he looked worried. He told me that he was going to have to work from dawn till dusk, but he promised to try to finish early whenever he could. That night, I couldn't sleep, so I searched the internet looking for information on the Draco family. There were a lot of anecdotes and even eyewitness accounts of Mr. Draco's ghost haunting this area. This had caused many people to move out of this neighborhood, which is why it was so peaceful and quiet and inexpensive to live here. I resolved to get to the bottom of this matter and prove or disprove it once and for all, but I would need help. A friend of mine named Hall lived not too far away, and I knew that he was obsessed with the supernatural, so I told him about our haunted neighborhood and the ghost of Mr. Draco. He told me that he had heard about this legend before and was excited at an opportunity to look into it deeper. So we gathered some tools, and he brought some spell books in case we should confront a ghost. Personally, I didn't believe in spells, but better safe than sorry, so I humored Hall. One day, we waited until sunset and sat on the front porch of my house and waited. Sure enough, just after the sky turned dark, we heard a low moaning sound. We felt mild tremors in the ground. The sound gradually grew a little louder. We were shaking with fear, almost as badly as the ground was shaking with tremors. Hall screwed up some courage and said that we had to ignore our fear and start digging into the ground where the voice was coming from. The deeper we dug, the louder the sound became. Suddenly, a blast of water jetted up out of the ground. We dropped our shovels and ran like bats we ran fast. After a few minutes, when we had regained our breath and slowed down our heart rates, we built up the courage to go back to investigate. As we approached the hole, we laughed mightily. We had ruptured a weakened water pipe that had been making horrendous flow and water hammer noises. When Dad got home, we told him we had solved the mystery of the legend of the Draco family curse. One night, Mr. Draco went mad, killed his whole family, and then committed suicide. A little morbid, isn't it?
I adore detective adventures and solving puzzles that others can't. I'm crazy about this. I love challenges and mysteries. I'm Ramon. But my father's nickname for me is Megamind. I'm 14 years old, and I'm typically ranked number 1 in my class every year. I have become famous for solving riddles. Many comers have tried to unseat me, but all have failed. I love to examine minute details. But let me get on with telling you my story. One hot summer, we had just finished our exams at school and were going on summer break. So I organized a trip to the beach with my friends. Beach weather is amazing. Clear skies, cool ocean breezes, sand, and sun. Just amazing. One day, before my beach trip, my mother handed me a letter from my grandmother. I was surprised and thought it was a little weird because Granny owned a hotel in the surrounding area nearby. It had wonderful views all around it. I had opened the letter, which read, "Dear Ramon, how are you? I hope you're enjoying your summer break. Would you mind spending a couple of days with me? I have a serious matter that I would like to discuss with you. Granny." Initially, I thought that it was probably some silly matter, but then my inner voice told me that it might be important. I was conflicted between going on my beach trip or visiting my granny. I decided to visit Granny first. She was family after all, so off I went. Though my grandmother lived in a beautiful area, the closer I got to the hotel, the more my inner voice was nagging me. When I arrived at the hotel, Granny was waiting for me. She smiled and hugged me. I had missed her so much. She had company. Raul, her maintenance man, and Malika, her housekeeper and assistant. There weren't any guests in the hotel at the time, and I asked her why. Her face changed, and she said that was what she wanted to speak to me about. So we went to her room to talk. She then proceeded to tell me that the hotel was haunted. "Haunted?" I exclaimed. "What makes you think that?" Granny said, "The hotel has evil spirits that frighten the guests at night." I didn't want to believe it, but I knew Granny was a rational person. I suspected there was more to this than meets the eye, so I decided to investigate this intriguing mystery. On my first night at the hotel, I waited until midnight. Then I lit a candle and walked through the halls of the hotel. There were photos on the wall, and I could hear whispering and the rustle of the leaves outside. It was a little spooky and unsettling, and made my blood run cold. Suddenly, I heard laughing on both sides of the hotel, and a shadow passed quickly in front of my eyes. Unnerved, I quickly returned to my room, where soon afterwards I heard something scratching on my door. I kept thinking to myself, I am not afraid. I am not afraid. Then the door began opening slowly. I saw a hand on the doorknob. Then the owner of the hand came into view. It was a cloaked, headless man holding a candle. I fainted. The next day, I woke up to find Granny and Malika standing beside me. Granny told me that I had been sleeping a long time. I asked what had happened, and they told me they heard me scream and came to my aid. When they found me, I was unconscious on the floor. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. It was Raul bringing me a drink. That was when I noticed something strange about Raul's face. It was emotionless. Then I glanced at his hands as I accepted the drink from him. That night, I again walked around the hotel. I found some steps at the end of a corridor that led to the basement. Down in the basement, I opened a maintenance door and found a tape recorder and a pile of clothes on a table. Suddenly, the lights went out. I was groping around in the dark and trying to find my way back when I heard the laughing again. Still, I continued stumbling ahead through the dark. I stepped on an electrical line and tore it off the wall. I returned to my room. My door opened slowly. I was hiding behind the door. I grabbed the loose electrical detonator and touched it to the doorknob. It was live, and I heard a grunt from the owner of the hand on the other side of the door, as he or she was shocked. And I heard him or her fall to the floor. It took me a while to find the electrical panel, but I managed to get the lights back on. When I did, I found Raul laying unconscious on the floor next to the doorknob that I had electrified. I called Granny and Malika down to the basement. Granny asked what had happened. I replied, "Granny, you really need to screen your employees better. Raul was your ghost." Granny looked shocked and asked me what made me think that. I explained that the hand on my drink today was the same hand I saw on the headless ghost that opened my hotel room door the night before. I also found tools, a tape recorder, and some ghost clothes down here in the basement. In addition, I found the earphones that had been placed around the hotel. Granny was shocked. Raul woke up about that time, and she grilled Raul. "Why are you scaring all my guests away, Raul?" He said, "This hotel used to belong to my family, but you bought it from my grandfather. Well, I wanted it back. Please forgive me." Malika said, "We have to call the police." But I said, "No, wait, I have an idea. Let's renovate and reopen the hotel with a new name. The Haunted Hotel. Our advertising slogan will be, spend a night in a haunted hotel." Raul can do his ghost thing with the whispers and the laughing. Why, he can even flicker the lights off and on at a random time once or twice a night just to give the hotel a spooky atmosphere. The idea proved to be a big hit. The haunted hotel attracted many tourists, and Granny's business prospered. I had a nice holiday and still managed to fit in my trip to the beach on my summer break.